Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Points of Articulation. My name's Dave and if you're new to the channel, welcome. Today I'm looking at the Shop Disney exclusive Boba Fett Starship released in 2021. Now the first time we see the variant of Slave 1 in this color scheme is Star Wars Episode 5 The Empire Strikes Back. Now I actually have a lot to say about this ship, but first let's take a look at the box. As we can see, it's this nice black, beautiful window in the front, our ship in the center, we can see ages 3 and up on the sides, Star Wars, the Book of Boba Fett, and finally Boba Fett's Starship. Now during this review I will refer to this ship as Slave 1, that's the actual name of the ship that's been that way for over 30 years, so until the people at Lucasfilm come up with a better name, I will refer to this ship as Slave 1. So anyway, moving on. The box is really neat because it has this nice print to it that is very decorative and really honors every single type of Star Wars project they had in the last several years. Now, if I show the back of the box real quick, you'll see what I'm talking about. We have different characters such as Darth Maul, Yoda, different starfighters and symbols from Rebels all the way to Clone Wars and into the future with such characters as Kylo Ren and different stuff like that. So this is really good. I do like the art of the box. Normally I don't show off the box very often at all, but I thought this was kind of cool and I did want to show it off for anybody who's interested. So enough about the box, let's take a look at the ship. So here we have Slave 1 out of the box, and this baby measures in at about 5.5 inches or about 14 centimeters tall. So it's very nice. The paint looks good, and for those who don't know, the Slave 1, or Boba Fett Starship, is actually called a Firespray 31 class patrol and attack ship, which has been heavily modified and renamed. So really cool stuff. If you're new to my channel, what I like to do is go over the mold, get real close, show everybody at home what we're buying, look at the paint, compare it to some other pieces we might have for scale, and then we'll be done. So let's get started. Alright, let's get this review started looking at the mold. Just like in all my videos, I will go over all the major parts of the item, and then we'll get a nice close-up look to see those fine details. So let's get started. Up at the top, we have our sensor jamming equipment, looking good. Below that, we have our cockpit, which can open, so let's take a quick look at that. Now, for the cockpit section, it has no latch, so I just move my finger, it opens up, and here we can see our cockpit, with 3 chairs and a control panel, and below that we have our observation deck, which we saw in The Mandalorian Season 2. Now, as of right now, we only have 1 episode of the Book of Boba Fett, so there hasn't been any of his ship in it yet, but so far this is pretty good. I love the cockpit area, I think it looks great. Coming down on the sides, we have our stabilizer fins, which can rotate, so let's take a quick look at them. Now this is the saddest part of this ship. Now as we know, looking at the right hand side of Slave 1's stabilizer fin, it's supposed to go flat when landing and then 90-degree twist, and that's its cruising mode. Now the other side on the left is very loose, and when I try to lock the fin in place, a peg pops out. It's very loose, it doesn't want to lock in the exact position. And I think there's some sort of plastic, maybe set where it's not supposed to be. I had a good look at it. It looks fine, but something's just not functioning properly. And here we can see both fins together, and one's obviously a little lower than it should be, which is a shame. Very interesting. Now, yes, mine does have some sort of defect and it doesn't really want to rotate as much as it should, but the fact that it can rotate is pretty cool. So moving on to the center section, this is one of my favorite parts. This is where all the gadgets and system equipment is located, such as sensor jammers, we have concussion missiles, rockets, laser cannons, and a whole bunch of other hidden weaponry in the center spot, sort of like a Swiss Army knife. On the bottom, we have our twin laser cannons, which can rotate, so let's take a quick look at that. So looking at the blaster cannons, they are able to basically rotate in a 90-degree arc, from facing forward to facing down, and that's it. I really have a lot of resistance on here, and I don't want to break it. Now these guns are very tight, but just using 2 fingers you can rotate them to the 2 positions, or any position in between. It's up to you. Either way, they look very nice. A little stiff, but they function, so well done. Now, coming to the bottom, we do have our entry ramp, and this does open, so let's take a quick look at that now. Now, looking at that entry ramp, I actually had to get a razor to put it up there and pry this open. But once you get it loose, it does open up, and as you can see, there's nothing really in there, but it's a nice touch. And then you could actually take that, seal it back up, and you're good to go. I love all the moving parts on here. It may not have been executed very well, but we'll get to that later. Now, of course, we have our skirt section with a bunch of nice line work, and then one of my favorite sections is the back of the vessel, which we have our engine section, which looks amazing. Now, we can see some partial copyright crap on the bottom here, but the engines and all the details and little recessed areas looks amazing. All in all, a very nice looking ship at first glance. So now let's get a closer look. Alright, having a closer look, we'll begin looking at the aft of the vessel. And this is one of my favorite sections. This is the engine section. We can see this beautiful dark metallic gray and gold. And just look at all the detailing on here. This is exquisite. You know, I'm a stickler for little doodads, recessed areas, pipes, and details throughout, and this has got it. Just look at all this. It's layers upon layers of stuff, and of course our copyright crap on the sides, but very nicely done. I love the engine section. Beautiful stuff. Moving on to the main body. This has a lot of nice line work, as you can see. Right where my thumb is in the front, all the way around the skirt section. And one of my favorite parts on here is this interior section around the stabilizer fin. It's painted gold, and it just looks great with all the little pistons and hoses and pipes. Great stuff. And then we have our strut here for the stabilizer fin. Looking good, lots of detailing, which is amazing. And just look at that. Great stuff. Looking at the bottom real quick, you can see there is some minor line work and minor molding. And then we have a front view, and it looks great. Pretty cool. Now, moving on from there, let's continue looking at the skirt. You can see some more line work. Some great stuff here. Nice curves. Beautiful. Slave 1 has a very unique mold, and I feel like the Disney company did a great job with this particular piece, look-wise. Again, the line work continues. We have another little recessed area, you know, with all the stabilizer components in there. Great stuff. And this fin is a little loose, but it's okay. And then coming back to the top, you can see more line work. Our cockpit window looking good. And this section is really interesting. It's recessed in, and it looks to be like some sort of light or vent. Looking sharp, and that's on the other side as well. But good touch. Moving down, you can see the beautiful line work and paneling. All the little raised sections here. Fantastic stuff. Just look at the detail on there. Beautiful. Looking at the other side, same as the other. Just nicely done. This is not lacking in detail whatsoever. Again, we have our little light there, looking sharp. And then all the little raised areas here. Little wires, little panels. Excellent. And then, of course, we have our blaster cannons, which do have negative space. Look at that. Great stuff. Beautiful. This is what I'm talking about. It's what I look for when I get these ships. I love the fine details. Looking at underneath, we have our entry ramp, which is beautifully detailed, and my god, copyright crap everywhere. But as you can see, excellently done. Some great details on there. Beautiful stuff. I really like that quite a bit. Now, coming up to the top of the ship again, you know, going full circle, we can see again more line work, panels. Oh, that hinge for the cockpit window. and then our cockpit. Looking pretty good. All in all, great ship. So now let's take a look at the paint. And now looking at that paint on the Shop Disney exclusive Boba Fett Starship, this bad boy has about 9 different colors, believe it or not. First up, the main colors, we have gray, dark green, and maroon, and I think they're great color choices. Building upon those, we do have some dark gray, tan for the stabilizer fins, some black, gold for those engine components on the back, metallic dark gray, and then we also have some whitewash, believe it or not. Now normally on the channel we deal with black wash or dark washes, but to have a white one, it's very unique for me. It fills in some of the nooks and crannies, it's mostly just splattered on there, but it gives it another layer of paint, which is pretty good. All in all, I'm very happy with the paint. It's just some of the mechanical aspects of the model that I have issue with. So that does it for the mold as well as the paint, so now let's compare this bad boy with some other pieces. For a quick size comparison with the Shop Disney Slave 1 seen in the center, first on the right hand side we have the Disney Store exclusive Snowspeeder, which looks pretty cool, and finally on the left hand side we have the Disney Store exclusive Pose X-Wing. For an added bonus size comparison with the Shop Disney Slave 1 seen in the center, first on the right hand side we have the Slave 1 from the Takara Tommy line, followed on the left by the Hot Wheels Slave 1, which looks pretty cool. And for our final size comparison with the Shop Disney Slave 1, I have some other Galaxy's Edge Star Wars vessels. Now these ships are exclusive to the theme park, so first on the right we have the Resistance Intersystem Transport, and finally on the left we have the First Order TIE Echelon. Really great ships here, and if you're interested in seeing reviews of any of the vessels I showed today, check the links in the description below. And that does it today for my review of the Shop Disney exclusive Boba Fett Starship released in 2021. On the whole, I'm very happy to have this in my collection, but it's a double-edged sword. Yes, it has a beautiful box. Yes, the mold is pretty good and the paint is spot on. However, I do have some issues with it. First, there's no stand to display this piece at all. You're going to have to find a third-party one. 2, there's no clamp to the window to hold the cockpit together. It just opens. Like if you hold this upside down, the window's opening, and it kind of stinks. And 3, moving parts. Now normally this is a huge plus for me, and don't get me wrong, the cockpit, the entry ramp, and the blaster cannons are perfectly fine. A little loose or a little stiff, but they work. My problem is the stabilizer fins. They are not engineered well. As you saw, just turning mine, it makes that little peg loose, the stabilizer part, and it could just pop right off. There's no quality control on that for the most part, and it stinks. You know, it's not hard to make a ship that could just lock into 2 different positions. You know, Titanium series did it, Micro Machines did it. It's doable, so there's no excuses with this. Maybe mine is assembled in a weird way, which is stopping it from, you know, going fully horizontal, but it is what it is. On the whole, it looks fantastic though, and if you're an in-box collector, this is great for you. It looks amazing in the box, and the box art is pretty sick. If you're an out-of-the-box collector like myself, you're gonna find some issues. There's no getting around it. But basically, that's everything I have to say. I know I went on, and I really looked at this ship with a fine-tooth comb, but that's the name of the game. You know, I'm looking at it so you at home have a good idea of what you're getting into if you choose to buy this. So that's everything I have to say about this awesome ship, formerly known as Slave 1. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, and if you would like to see new videos every week, subscribe. Again, to all of you out there, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to watch my content. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope to see you next time. Bye everybody, have a happy new year.